Well. This is the scene of the location of a lot of people gonna get mad at me, but I'm gonna say it because that's Reg. This is where a black man died that I don't have no remorse for him dying. This is the location, and I'm gonna ask Bobby Ladd to start off and give us a little background on this gentleman. But this is the guy that I really believe that had something to do with the murder of Tupac Shakur. Orlando Anderson, Baby Lane.
Okay, Orlando Anderson. Well, at the time of this particular shooting, he was already a legend in the hood because there's no doubt in my mind, which I agree with you, that he was the shooter of Tupac Shakur. Okay, so he already had legend status in the hood over that at the time of this shooting, but we go way back with Baby Lane to when he first started up in Southside Crips. During this shooting that Reggie's going to talk about, he was with a guy named Michael Duro, Little Al. Well, in their initiation in the Southside Crips, they ambushed Blondie and me at a McDonald's at Long Beach and Alondra over there. That was their initiation into the gang. So we knew him when he first started in the gang, and then we watched him grow up in the hood. And at the time of this shooting, Timmy and I were investigating Baby Lane on a murder of Champion Nutty Block Crips. It's Elbert Webb that he supposedly killed at a party. And we also investigated murders on Michael Duro over the years. So these guys were no punks. I mean, they've been around the block. They were true Southside gang members down for the hood, and they were the real deal.
People always say that Vegas PD and all of them knew who Orlando Anderson was that night. Could you explain to the public how did Vegas PD learn who Orlando Anderson was?
Absolutely. It was several days later that they found out about the fight between Tupac Suge when they jumped him after the Tyson fight. Well, it was a couple days later that we got involved in the investigation, and Timmy Brennan, Blondie, he went to Las Vegas to identify these guys. So they showed him the tape, and Blondie automatically knew who Baby Lane was and told Las Vegas PD at that time. It was like, I believe it was like 2 days later after the shooting.
So when you kill that rumor about Orlando being, matter of fact, escorted out in the location by Reggie Senior.
Oh, are you kidding me? Reggie Senior was nowhere in Vegas. That's a ridiculous statement.
Based on what Bobby was telling you to give me the background on Baby Lane, I just recall the day that the shooting occurred, we had a triple homicide that occurred on Alondra and Oleander. But at the time, I was on the rear lot talking to, I believe, Bobby and a couple of other people on the rear lot, and we heard gunshots. We actually heard them. Then all of a sudden, they told us that they were gunshot victims, the dispatch, at Alondra and Oleander. I was almost in my car, and I flew out of a parking lot, and I had one of these cars with bells and whistles on it. And as I was coming down this street right behind me, Willowbrook, toward Alondra to go over to the car wash, I saw this guy standing out in the middle of the street flagging me down. And as I approached about right there and realized it was Al, who I've been knowing for a long time, and so Michael Duro was flagging me, and as soon as I stopped, what was going through my mind at the time is, I got gunshot victims I know over there because they put out the call. I got him all frantic in the street, and then as I got out, he said, Reg, they shot Lane. I knew they were directly involved. So I immediately hooked up Michael, had him in handcuffs, and I walked him around to the truck where Baby Lane was kind of like hanging out of the truck with the door open. And to me, he looked like he was dead. But we had called paramedics and stuff. They started rolling. Ray and Eddie Aguirre, my other two gang guys, along with Bobby and them, were at the scene with me. But I told Bobby and them to go to the scene. So Ladd and Brennan, they left to go to the actual scene. Ray Richardson, myself, and it may be a patrol officer or something. I even think the chief had came by, Uri Taylor, while we were right here on the corner, and the paramedics was here. I had, I'm not sure who it was. I think it was Eddie eventually or somebody to take the road to the station. And then Ray, I saw Ray get on the rig to talk to Baby Lane as they were pulling him away. And I found out later that Ray had asked him basically, you know, about did he shoot Tupac? Did he shoot Tupac? And he kind of just looked at him and he called him by a nickname they had or something. And Ray said, hey, look, you know, almost like F you, and didn't respond to him as far as giving him any information. Then I left and I went to the scene where Ladd and Brendan and a bunch of patrol officers and everybody was at that scene. And I kind of helped supervise at that point. Bobby can tell you a little more about the scene. Or a friend might want to interject something.
Well, to set the stage for this whole incident, and all the real Comptonites and the OGs, as soon as they hear what I'm about to say, they're going to know that I'm telling the truth. Anybody else can say whatever, but the OGs from Compton will know I'm telling the truth. What happened that day is there's a burger place on Alondra, across the street from the back of Compton High School, called Mom's Burgers. And, you know, all the gangsters in the city would eat there. Hell, all the cops would eat there. They had the best burgers in Southern California. So everybody went to Mom's Burgers. Baby Lane just happened to be at Mom's Burger. And at the time, across the street, there was a car wash called Rob's Car Wash. Everybody took their car to Rob's to get it washed. Baby Lane saw Jerry Stone and Michael Stone and another individual whose name I won't mention because he's still alive at the car wash. The individual owed Baby Lane some money for dope. Baby Lane, instead of confronting all three of them, he went back to the neighborhood and he picked up Michael DeRoe. They drove back over to the car wash where the Stone brothers and this other guy, they were still there. They confronted him about the money, at which time a shootout occurred. The Stones were from a small gang in Compton called the Corner Pocket Crips, or the Pocket Hood Crips, up at the northwest section of the city, the far northwest section of the city. And they were feared. They had respect on the street. Michael Stone's arms, probably 21 inches. They were no punks. So you get Michael DeRoe and Baby Lane, who were no punks either. So you get these four, you know, legendary gang members in the streets of Compton. They face off at a car wash, and gunplay is involved. I mean, if you want a comparison, it's like a black OK Corral is what happened. That's the way I always refer to it. Both Stones were murdered. Baby Lane took more than a few shots. Michael DeRoe did not get hit. He took the wheel. He drove off, and they were in Baby Lane's black Blazer.
Parked on us.
Parked. It was actually in the car wash when the shooting happened. After the shooting, Michael DeRoe is able to get behind the wheel. He sees the Baby Lane is shot. He's bleeding out. He's got to get him some help. He takes off. We got information that he discarded the gun that they used somewhere in the area behind Compton High School. We never recovered the gun. During the shooting, all the tires, or at least 3 of the tires on Baby Lane's Blazer, got shot. So he's driving on essentially one wheel. He gets to Cocoa and Willowbrook right here. He can't go any further. He's driving on the rims. He stops. By this time, you know, there's sirens all over the place. The cop, because the police station is still, but now it's a sheriff's station, but the police station was only 3 blocks away. So everybody on the back lot heard the shots. So they started responding over here before a radio call even went out. So all these police sirens are going on, and Reggie was one of the first people to respond, and he had an unmarked car. It was supposed to be an undercover car, but everybody in Compton knew Reggie's car. So DeRoe saw him coming, and he flags him down. Reggie gets out, and like he just said, he says, hey, they shot Lane. Reggie, he's a supervisor. He starts making decisions, and the person that he talks about, Ray Richardson, he was in the gang unit at the time. Ray Richardson's about 6'5", okay? And at the time, he used to wear his hair like the guy from Cameo, you know, the high fade flat top. So all the gangsters called Ray Cameo. So when Ray got to the scene and he saw Baby Lane getting put into the ambulance, he asked him. He said, hey, did you kill Tupac? And anybody in law enforcement knows that would have been a dying declaration. They could have killed the case. If he would have said, I killed Tupac, and then he died, case closed, right? But Baby Lane, being a gangster to the end, he said, fuck you, Cameo. And I know this because Ray Richardson told me that. So essentially, the last words that Baby Lane spoke were, fuck you, Cameo.
What's ironic about this whole situation is that I interviewed Chris Carroll, who was the first responder in Las Vegas during the Tupac shooting. And he said as he pulled Tupac out of the car and he tried to get a death confession out of him, when Tupac realized he was a cop, he said, "Fuck you," and then slipped into a coma and ultimately ended up dying.
I looked at him once again. I said, "What happened? Who did this? Who shot you?" And now he's looking at me, so we're looking at each other in the eyes. And this is kind of the first time he's even acknowledging my presence. And he looked at me, and I could tell he was getting a breath together to tell me. And he looked me right in the eyes, and we looked at each other, and he said, "Fuck you." And he said it just like that, with the emphasis on that F to really let me know. That's how he felt. So he said that, and right after he said it, he just kind of started gurgling, and you could tell he was in bad shape, and his eyes, he's starting to lose consciousness then, and his eyes roll back. And as it turns out, that would be his last conscious moment and his last words.
And it's so interesting how these two men, who are always going to be tied together in this twisted type of way, both of them told the cops to go fuck themselves as they're trying to get death confessions out of them.
Well, that's the mentality.
It's the mentality, yeah.
To the old gangsters back in the day when they get ready to go to the what they call it, when they go execute them, they go down hard.
Yeah.
They go down hard.
Little Al is in custody currently. He was charged for the murder felony rule. If one of y'all can explain that rule to why Michael DeVoe is doing dying. Shout out Lil Al. Was she the best man? Though you like family to us. Oh, she the best.
Michael DeVoe, he was arrested for the murder, and he was charged with all 3 murders because at that time the felony murder rule stated that if you were involved, anyone died in the commission of a crime, you got charged with all of them. And in this case, 3 people died. So he was charged. The DA filed the case, and it was actually Blondie's case, but I was over there with him. And we went to court. It was a long court case, and he was, subsequently convicted on all 3 murders. But Thoreau, he was pissed off when he got convicted because he didn't care about the Stone brothers. He didn't want to he goes, "Hey, I don't care about the Stone brothers, but I don't want to be convicted of killing my homie, Orlando Anderson." He was extremely upset about being charged with that murder. And he's still in prison today over it.